People of God, how are y'all? Y'all doing all right? Good. Boy, have this been a very interesting 24 hours. What a difference a day makes. 24 little hours. Man, let me tell you, since the time I did that show yesterday to find out what we wanted to know, was Kamala Harris going to be the one that the people picked in the Democratic Party on the big heads I was mentioning, and how Barack Obama came in there and decided, Well, 24 hours later, so much has happened, and you all need to thank black women for that. Let me tell y'all, brothers, if y'all don't understand the power behind black women, I don't think you're going to ever understand it. The churches were built by black women. The men sat in those tall seats, those big throne-like seats, and the women just bowed to them as the men said whatever they needed to say to do this. But let me tell you, these cathedrals and churches and these large buildings and even the missions work, even the Church of God in Christ, it was a woman who did the missions work, and they raised all that money, millions of dollars. It was women's, right? So don't mess with them. And the Democratic Party is made up of the power structure of the Democratic Party are black women. So they came out like never before, broke history, and the Republican Party is scared beyond scared right now. They are so upset that Biden jumped out of this party because what they saw for the first time, as in 24 days at least, the Democratic Party came together in a unified force that we had not seen since the I think probably the civil rights movement. Woo! Scene 60.
You good. Don't stop it.
Bass.
It's the show that will get you thinking, and where the topics are hot. Feel free to comment whether we agree or not, 'cause he's got something to say.
Sirwalterj,
He's got something to say. Sirwalterj.
Report live 7 days a week, always on time, but this time is not free. Sirwalterj, always on fleek. Latest trending topics, how you jumping out your seat.
He's got something to say.
Come on in. The water's fine. Hello, everybody. Sirwalterj Jones Show. I'm here. It is the midday connection, baby. Come on in. The water's fine. Woo, that water is sizzling right now. Like I said in my opening here, the black women came together like a force that we have not seen in recent history. So as I was going over there, and I tiptoed over there to the Fox News people, and I was watching and how they was reporting on Kamala Harris. Man, let me tell you, what they were looking for was feministic ways, body language, and things like that, because they really couldn't find anything else other than she's just boring. Or they honed in on how her laugh was. That man. What's his name? He comes on at nighttime. He's a Trump bootlicker. He did a thing on her laugh. They don't like her because of her laugh. I told y'all that the sexism is going to come out, and it's going to come out in a major way, not just among the Republican Party, but also among us, among the church as well, because many believe that a woman should never be the president of the United States. All right. And many of the Christians will come forward, especially those who are fundamentalists or who are focuses typically on the old dispensation of the Bible. And then they're going to get a pushback by the women who are going to say that Deborah, trust me, Deborah's name is going to come up. Deborah, the prophet, the poet, and the only female judge, that Deborah, all right, of Israel. and they're going to push her on the scenes as a support, as proof. They're not going to start fighting. They're going to be continue to fight over women being pastors, yes, and bishops and apostles, all that stuff. Junior's name's going to come up, but Deborah and Kamala will be running in this election. Deborah and Kamala is going to be the presidential nominated, and Deborah will be the vice president pick. I'm talking about Deborah or Deborah in the Old Testament. Oh, it's coming. I'm prophesying that right now. The black women came together. It was a whole bunch of them, and some of the bunkers was on that call. 70,000 women came together. It was called the Win with Black Women or something like that. It was a Zoom call last night. Star Jones was the one who kind of hosted this thing. Star Jones asked the women for $1 million over the next 100 days. $1 million. Dumb black women raised $1.5 million, not over 100 days. They raised it in 2 hours. When you tell a black woman what she can't do, she gonna show you what she can. She gonna show you what she can. And let me tell you, they did. And I think the number adds up to about between 60 and $70 million was raised overnight. This was the most raised that fast since the election of 1896 or somewhere right there. I'll tell you about that in just a minute. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you. Kamala Devi Harris, she is the 49th vice president because some presidents had to, get rid of their vice president. So she's 49, and she's on her way to be 47. 47. She's 49 now, on her way to be 47. Y'all know what that means, right? Maybe. She's got to pick a vice president. You understand? And it's got to be somebody who is a governor of a battleground state. Not so much somebody who's well loved, all right? Not somebody whose policies really line up with the Democratic Party. It's got to be somebody who's part of a battleground state. Y'all got to understand, and this is all about perceived notions and finances. It's about money, power, and what is perceived. All right? Battleground state, if y'all going to, you people who live in Wisconsin, get ready, they're coming down there to visit y'all. If you live in Pennsylvania, they're coming down there to visit y'all. If you live in Michigan, they're coming down there or up there to visit y'all. You down there in Arizona, they are coming to see about you. Why? Because it has a lot to do with the battleground states. You understand? And the defense against a woman becoming a president is fierce, but the United States is an extremely sexist and racist country. We know that. And so it is a very sexist country, obviously because of you see how long it took for women to even have the right to vote. And if you're a black woman, you could forget it. And so we see in other nations how not black women, but women have taken on the leadership helm, and America is behind. Great Britain had a woman prime minister. India, Israel, Germany, Anglia, what's her name? Mexico just got one. Ethiopia. These are women. Pakistan, of all places, a woman. And the world is showing y'all that women can lead. And so America, it takes them just a little while to get used to a woman being in the helm. All right. And again, history doesn't repeat itself. It rhymes. I've been saying that for a while now. But there was a president who did prophesy about this. All right. And thank you. She don't like her name being mentioned. But there was a president who mentioned this, a woman becoming president. And I had been saying for a long time that President Biden would have to get really sick or die for a woman to be the president. I have been saying that on this show boldly, that if during this election, I said it a few years ago, or if he's reelected, he won't be able to serve out the rest of his term because he will be too ill. Maybe it's Parkinson's, or maybe it's dementia, or maybe it is Alzheimer's or something. He cognitively, so they would have to pull the 25th Amendment. He is incapacitated. He can't lead. Kamala Harris will be the first president of the United States based off her only, not because she was elected by the people in a primary, but because someone was incapacitated. I said that to you all a while ago. You understand? And it doesn't take a prophet or brain surgeon to figure that stuff out. All right. But President Ford made a prediction in 1989. I hope it plays. Let's see what he says.
Mr. Ford, what advice would you give a young lady wanting to become President of the United States?
Well, I hope we do have a young lady at some point become President of the United States. I can tell you how I think it will happen, because it won't happen in the normal course of events. Either the Republican or Democrat political party will nominate a man for president and a woman for vice president. And the woman and man will win. So you'll end up with a president, a male, and a vice president, a female. And in that term of office of the president will die. And the woman will become president under the law or Constitution. And once that barrier is broken, from then on, men better be careful, because they'll have a hard time ever even getting a nomination in the future. But that's the way it's going to happen.
Mr. Ford, what advice?
He said they'll have a hard time once that happens, getting a nomination in the future. Now, this was a man who back in 1989, men were showing really how sexist they were back then. All right. He prophesied, just like Martin Luther King prophesied, that in 40 years a black man will be president. Okay, now a president doesn't have to die. He said die. Well, no, like I said earlier, he just could be mentally incapacitated. All right, he's not able to do his job, and then the 25th Amendment is pulled. All right, so what happened in American history is exactly what he said. And I'm telling y'all, the proof is right in your face. It's in your face. In 1968, Lyndon Baines Johnson stepped down due to an unpopular Vietnam War. I told y'all yesterday. Remember that? So the DNC was held right here in Chicago, and the whole world was watching. I was a little boy then. Vice President Hubert Humphrey, he didn't even compete in the primaries, but he inherited the delegates that was pledged to President Johnson. All right. Again, history doesn't repeat, but it surely do rhyme. Okay. Now, I'm bringing this up because I need y'all to know this one thing. Be careful who you settle with. Be careful. So back in 1968, when that man says, I will not seek another term, then somebody had the bright idea to have a open convention. Barack Obama decided that his former VP pick was not mentally capable, so he wanted an open convention. Barack Obama made an error because he is a constitutional expert, which means he has some historical prowess here, and it's like he forgot what happened in the 1960s, right here in his home city of Chicago, Illinois. You do not, when your party is divided, have an open nothing, not even an open can of beer. Don't ever do it. So that happened, and the mayor of Chicago, who was the boss, they call him the boss because Chicago's politics was called the machine. We're called the Windy City. And many of you have been here to Chicago, and many of you can attest that Chicago is quite windy. But we're not the windiest city in America. We might be third, fourth, fifth, sixth, down. Somebody Google it right quick. We're not the windiest city. We're called the Windy City because of our politics. Because somebody had put an ad, not an ad, but a co-op or what do you call that thing? A thing in the paper, and they were talking about our politics, and they called us a bunch of windbags. A bunch of windbags, and so we were the phrase "Windy City" was coined. You understand? So it was an op-ed. Thank you, Beatrice Carter. So it was the boss who was Mayor Daley. He was likened to Trump, and even though it was the Democratic Party, he was worshipped in a sense, but he put fear in the people here in Chicago, and he issued a shoot to kill for the Democratic National Convention because riots was happening outside of the Hilton Hotel, which was known as the Conrad Hilton. All right. I got the receipts.
Said to him very emphatically and very definitely that an order be issued immediately under his signature to shoot to kill any arsonist or anyone with a Molotov cocktail in their hand in Chicago, to fire a building because they're potential murderers, and to issue a police order to shoot, demean, or cripple anyone looting any stores in our city. And above all, the crime of arson is to me the most hideous and worst crime of any, and should be dealt with in this fashion. I was disappointed to know that every policeman out on the beat was supposed to use his own decision. And this decision evidently was his. In my opinion, he should have had instructions to shoot arsonists and to shoot looters.
Something else in my heart tonight, and not the speech that I'm prepared to give. And with George McGovern as President of the United States, we wouldn't have to have Gestapo tactics in the streets of Chicago. With George McGovern, we wouldn't have a National Guard. How hard it is to accept the truth. It is a great honor to nominate for the presidency of the United States, George McGovern.
George McGovern nominated, and guess what? Who became the president of the United States after all that fighting in the Democratic Convention? Richard Nixon. A man who just a few years later had to do the same thing. I will not seek, or I resign. I am not a crook. All right. History don't repeat itself, but it sure do rhyme. And I'm going to bring y'all the proper receipts here. Now, be careful who you settle with. I'm saying this because some of y'all are wondering about the office of the vice presidency. And some of y'all say you don't ever see the vice president. Let me tell you about the vice president position. And I'm going to tell it to you in a history lesson. So boys and girls, sit down, grab you a cup, your favorite cup of poison, lay down in your lazy boy, put your slippers on, and if you smoke, if you got it, smoke it. All right? Uncle Sir is going to teach you something about history and politics and why you got to be really careful who you settle with. Not so much who you pick, but who you settle with, you see, because there was a poll that went out for black women today, and they wanted to know about how black women pick their men. Yes, I said it just like I said it, how black women pick their men. And the polls came back and said that a high number of black women, I think the number was 75% or above, have a plan B, meaning they pick their black man or white man, depending on how much do you dip in your chocolate and the vanilla. They pick their men, but they pick another man, and he's on the sideline. Because this relationship that they're in may not work. This might be their main squeeze, or this might even be their husband's. But they got their either ex or the other pick waiting on the sidelines, waiting for this man to screw up so they can just leave him and run into the arms of this guy who's waiting in the wings. This has been polled, and some of y'all saying, oops, that's me. Yeah. Who we know now, it's you. Now, we already know how black men do what they do. But so you all, if you're sitting in a room next to a whole bunch of black women, 70% of them who's in that room right now, especially the ones who might be with their man, got another man on the side that they're waiting. They may not be having sex with him, may not be going out. Nope. They got him waiting in the wings. They got that side piece waiting. All right, because today, this is the way things are. So the man that they have, they settled with. And when it comes to politics, it's the same way. Shasha, it's the same way. Be careful who you settle with. John McCain, the Republican nominee for the presidency as he was running against Barack Obama. John McCain's biggest mistake was when he chose Sarah Palin. When he chose Sarah Palin, the GOP lined up behind her in an unhealthy worship experience. Y'all better hear me. I'm trying to teach y'all something. And when she came on the scene, I was living in Rapid City, South Dakota, an extremely devout Republican state. Extremely devoutly conservative. All right? And when she was chosen, everybody in that town was like, that's a good choice. That's a good choice. And they worshiped the ground she walked on. And the men began to put her pictures and posters. I went to the gym, and there she was. When they had her phone, her number. Even those who were in pornography was taking heads off of their old porn stars and putting her head on the porn stars. And I mean, it was crazy. Why? Because the Republican Party, when they adopt you, they worship that in which they adopt. The Democrats are going to fight over it and say, no. But the Republicans, if this one guy said, this is my choice, they will bow. And they bow to this woman, and all of the gaffes, all of the Freudian slips that Palin did, and all, I mean, she said some of the weirdest, the most dumbest things. in American history and in politics, and they came up with all kind of excuses why this and that. All right, and John McCain's biggest mistake and regret before he died was that he chose Sarah Palin because he felt that Sarah Palin lost him that election. Y'all better hear me. You better be careful who you settle with. You better be careful. Woodrow, for 10 years, I have been saying it. You're late to the show. All right? So the what ifs and the deflections is not going to work today because you only ask that because you think that I'm for someone because I'm against someone. How many times I got to say this, Woodrow, in front of you? You my boy. You married my sister. Come on, man. I'm neither. I'm giving you a history lesson, but don't say the what ifs. I don't want to hear about the what ifs. These whatabouts. Be careful who you settle with. All right? I'm going to tell you why in American history. Again, history don't repeat itself, it rhymes. There were 4 men, at least 3 men that I do know of in history who built America, and the History Channel did a series on the men who built America and other little documentaries that we do. And we know these men who built America. All right? We know. Cornelius Vanderbilt gave us the railroads. John D. Rockefeller gave us Standard Oil. Andrew Carnegie, somebody asked you, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. Well, he gave us U.S. Steel. He gave us steel. Well, he gave us steel, but J.P. Morgan eventually gave us, he gave us the electricity, and he gave us the banking system and then the railroads and what have you, because he was buying these guys out. So Rockefeller, Carnegie, and J.P. Morgan were the players of that time. So these men had gone unmonitored for decades building America. But American politics was about to change. All right? They wanted these men to fall in line. That is, they wanted these men, and they wanted them to fall in line under what we may call the government control. All right? History is rhyming. These men was the nation's economy. J.P. Morgan was so wealthy that the government went to him for loans, not the banks. He was the banks. So back then, the gap between the rich and the poor was the widest in American history. You think it's wide now. It was extremely wide back then. We talking late 1800s, okay? 90% of Americans lived on probably $100 per month. Can you imagine? Some of y'all make $100 a day, but these people was living on $100 per month. The average blue-collar worker was making $1 a day, and that was well below the poverty line. And people were dying on their jobs in those factories. 1 out of every 11 person was dying on these jobs based off of these titans. Let's call them titans, okay? So as history today seems like it's repeating, from 1896, the presidential election was approaching, and the poor was extremely desperate. And when the government is pressing on people, and then the economy is in such a bad shape, when it's time to vote, poor people, they run to the polls because they want to come out of this. So they picked the Democratic guy by the name of William Jennings Bryan. Y'all remember him, right? And he was the man that the poor chose to represent them. Bryan was the guy that I did a show on the Scopes monkey trials against the other lawyer, Clarence Darrow. If you don't know what the Scopes monkey trials, Google it. It was an embarrassment in American history, especially against somebody who was supposed to have been a fundamentalist, who William Jennings Bryan was. He embarrassed the Christians, all right? So antitrust was the word that you kept hearing about through the 19th and the 20th century. It has a lot to do with busting up these monopolies. Finally, monopolies was the soup du jour. It was something that was happening. Ma Bell, remember Ma Bell? We had Ameritech, not Ameritech. We had Illinois Bell. Well, anyway, the telecommunication system was just you had to have one company that gave you your phones. One in Chicago was one company that gave you your gas. One company, ComEd, gave you your electric. Okay, they were monopolies. Antitrusts were the rallying cry of the poor and the titans. These wealthy men were nervous about dismantling of their companies. Okay, so there was this big fight because they were stepping on the hands of the poor man. The poor man couldn't go nowhere. So William Jennings Bryan, he was a prohibitionist, meaning he was against alcohol. He was a devout Presbyterian. He was Darwin's theory of evolution was a pack of lies, is what he said. He was an enemy of the gold standard, and he was an enemy of big business, which means he was an enemy of these titans. He was an enemy of Rockefeller and Carnegie and J.P. Morgan, and even here where I live, Mr. Pullman, George Pullman. He was an enemy of those people. Okay, so surely the titans decided to buy their own presidential election. They were going to buy their own president, and so they selected Governor William McKinley. Y'all heard his name before, right? He would eventually become the 25th president of the United States. Well, these titans gave McKinley over $200,000 a piece. Y'all like, that's not a lot of money for millionaires. Well, they were in today's standard, they were billionaires. That's not a lot of money. Well, it added up to $20 million. Well, like what the women raised much more than that last night. But back then, $20 million for a campaign was unheard of. So they used the news media to spread propaganda. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, Newsmax, you name it. So they paid off news publishers, which is equivalent to what we may call payola today in the music business by going up to the radio stations and paying these guys, these disc jockeys, to play my records. So William Jennings Bryan, what he does is what's called a whistle tour, which became the standard today. Prior to that, politicians didn't go from town to town. But William Jennings Bryan kicked it off. They call it a whistle tour because they did it on the train. The whistle, all aboard. So the titans put fear tactics in the workers, saying that the companies would shut down if William Jennings Bryan is elected. He's going to kill these companies and you are going to lose your jobs. It was a great way of intimidating them. And this is what we saw in Georgia during the 2020 election, I think it was, because they was doing intimidations at the elections because the Republicans had men with armed weaponry standing at the polls, looking at y'all, go vote. History don't repeat itself, it sure do rhyme. So that's what they did back there. They were intimidating people at the polls. McKinley does win. All right. But how they was intimidating people at the polls was back then there was a box for Republican. There was a box for Democrats. The superintendents of the companies and the bosses of the companies would be at the election lines looking at you, put your ballot either in the Democratic or the Republican box. And if you voted in the wrong box, you lost your job the next day. It was an intimidation. And it worked. It worked because McKinley won. All right. And what did he do? He rolled back regulations. That's exactly what happened when Donald Trump got in. He gave all these tax cuts to the rich. Just brilliant history. So then what happened? I gave y'all that history to tell y'all, be careful who you settle with, because this next guy is coming on the scene to prove my point. In walks this Spanish-American war hero by the name of Theodore Roosevelt, who became New York's governor. So he passes laws against big business, and his biggest target were the monopolies and the men behind these monopolies. You've guessed it, J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, Carnegie. He was the governor of New York. So just like Trump and Biden had a rematch, well, having it right now, William Jennings Bryan and President McKinley do a rematch. But the Titans needed a change, and so what did they do is they selected Theodore Roosevelt to be the vice president. And I'm telling y'all that based off of the many comments that y'all got in the comment section about Kamala Harris, y'all not seeing her. Well, Theodore Roosevelt as a governor was rising up the political sphere. He was getting too popular. And the Titans did not want him to get so popular that he decided to run for the president of the United States. So what did they do? They decided to select him and hide him. Where, you all? They hid him in the vice presidency. Because back then, seemed like now, when you become the vice president, it is a witness protection, meaning nobody know where you are. It's just a place to be. It is like I gave the analogy of the black women settling. There's somebody on the sideline. Y'all don't see him. Y'all see her walking in with her husband. But when she decides she don't like him anymore, then she pulls her 25th Amendment and go get that man on the sideline and y'all never see. This is what they did with Theodore Roosevelt. They selected him to be the vice president. Be careful who you settle with. Well, they won. Roosevelt is now the vice president of the United States. As McKinley is shaking hands, he's in Buffalo, New York, shaking hands with folks. All right, back then there was Secret Service because since prior to him, two presidents was already assassinated. Yeah, two of them was assassinated. So the Secret Service was there, but they still was kind of, they wasn't protecting him like they should have. He's shaking hands. And this 28-year-old guy by the name of Leon Czolgosz, he was an anarchist. All right. He had just lost his job. How did he lose his job? J.P. Morgan took over a company that he was working for, and they downsized. And J.P. Morgan set up U.S. Steel. Leon Czolgosz lost his job. He started to study anarchism. And he was upset. And this history repeating itself, that 20-year-old boy who shot Trump wanted to shoot Biden as well. He wanted to be famous. When they looked in his background, they checked his phone and they checked his house and they checked his cars. They saw maps of not just Pennsylvania, where Trump was going to be, but also where Biden was going to be. He was an anarchist. You understand? History doesn't repeat itself. It just rhymes. He bandages his hands because he hit the gun, and he walks over to the president and shoots him. The president dies a few weeks after that. Guess who becomes the president of these here United States? You've guessed it. The Rough Rider. Roosevelt wins. And he becomes the president of the United States. And guess who he goes after? He goes after J.P. Morgan and that railroad, and he busts up the monopoly that J.P. Morgan have, and he's going after Carnegie. He's going after these guys. History don't repeat itself, but it sure do rhyme. And it's because of the man they chose, that same man came back and bit him in the behind. And this is what happened. When Palin was selected, he selected her because he settled. And she bit him in the behind. Biden picked a woman that he didn't like because she went after him in the debates and talked about busing. You remember that? Embarrassed him. But they said, you need to pick a black woman. Forget these other guys. You got to pick her. Pick her. He picked her. And the one he picked could now possibly be the president of the United States. So it seems like Gerald Ford's prophecy could come true. But again, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know. And let me tell you what's getting ready to happen. The name of this show is Biden is a lame duck. All right. He decided to become the lame duck by dropping out of the race. He's going to fulfill the rest of his job, and they're going to have a hopefully fair and balanced election in November. Ha ha, right. Fair and balanced, my behind. No such thing in this era of Trumpism. If Trump loses, he's going to tell y'all that it was rigged. He's always said that it was rigged. It will always be rigged from now until the rest of history because he set that up. He put that in the mindset of these people that it is rigged. It has always been rigged. And even when he won, he said that the election was rigged. Let me tell y'all something. I've been thinking about Jimmy Carter lately. Jimmy Carter's life was better after he left the White House than he was when he was in the White House. Jimmy Carter had bumps in the road, too many bumps, as the president of the United States. But when he lost to Ronald Reagan, he became more popular, and his real gift and anointing and calling happened after he lost the presidency. You understand? Jimmy Carter will probably take his last breath any moment now. All right? Jimmy Carter. So get ready. He'll be taking his last breath any moment. You're like, where you getting that news from? Nowhere. But he's getting ready to die. His life afterwards is an amazing testament of what you can do when you wasn't so gung-ho about sitting in this seat. You was, that is, gung-ho about sitting in this seat, but God had another plan for you. And that habitat for humanity was his greatest legacy. His greatest legacy. Remember, Donald Trump was shot, so just maybe he will have a change of behavior towards everything. Oh, no. It's impossible for Donald Trump to change. No, he can't change. No, he's sick. I've dealt with that. He can't change. All right. And he fooled y'all when at the convention, right as he was giving his speech, for 10 minutes, he was showing y'all that he changed. And when he stopped reading the teleprompter, he told y'all, I ain't changing. A bullet don't change men like that. It just don't. It just don't. So, Jimmy Carter, God bless his soul. Y'all just get ready, because it's getting ready to happen. Go back to the show, and then you can see where I said, I told you so. But watch this. Joe Biden when the next person is elected president of the United States in November, Joe Biden will go away. He'll go away. How is he going to go away? The same party who was rallying and shouting and screaming, Joe is our guy, is the same one that's going to turn on Joe. Unlike Barack Obama, who is just as popular today as he was when he was the president. Well, now over the past 24 hours, he's not that popular because he sowed discord among the brethren. So they're mad at Barack Obama. What you're going to see is Barack Obama is going to come out with a letter or a statement backing Kamala Harris. A dime too late. Was it $1 short and whatever y'all, the statement? Too late. The women showed y'all that we didn't need him. Now, tonight, the men are going to come together by the thousands, and I don't know if they're going to raise as much money as the women did over the 24-hour period or 2 hours period. I don't think they're going to raise as much. I don't think they are. All right. A dollar, was it a day short and $1 late? $1 short, day late, something like that. Day late, $1 short. Thank you, Grandma Lynn. Barack Obama, you messed up. When you showed division in your party, you messed up. Okay? But Joe Biden, once he wave and get on that helicopter and fly off like most presidents do, lame duck presidents, that may be the last y'all see of him. Not saying he's going to die, but like Ronald Reagan, when he did the same thing and said goodbye, you didn't see no more Ronald Reagan. Nancy Reagan was his protector because Ronald Reagan, too, went into a serious cognitive decline in his second. He couldn't remember stuff. Stuff that he did right in front of us, he couldn't remember. He went into the annals of time until he died. That's what's going to happen to Joe Biden. They're going to put him up there. They're going to try and say hello. Y'all going to see him, but you're not going to see him. You're going to see him, but you're not. And he's going to go somewhere and he's going to retire. He's going to play bingo and he's going to love on his grandchildren and he's done. Unlike Barack Obama, who he go here and go here and still pack arenas out, Joe Biden can't do that. He can't. And he can't do what Jimmy Carter did. Jimmy Carter's advantage was he was still a young man when he lost the presidency. And he was able to travel the depth and the breadth of the country and do it and became a Sunday school teacher until he couldn't. Mm-hmm. You understand? So Biden is like a walking dead in a sense. His time is ticking real fast. Real fast. And, well, Biden did a lot of good things, I will say. I didn't vote for him, but I thank God for the things he did to help America. I will say that. So, Dr. Hill will protect her man. Stand by your man. Now, I guess tomorrow I get to talk about Kamala Harris because breaking news is happening every single day. My job is to give y'all a history lesson on what's going on and not so much to give you a solution. But let me tell y'all, speaking of solutions, let me tell y'all who run the world. It ain't women. Look at this. This right here is the world hierarchy pyramid. Some of you might have seen this, all right? Here is where the U.S. government is when it comes to hierarchy, all right? Way down here, you see where it says government, rigged voting systems. You see that? Career and bloodline, politicians, military, police, prisons. That's what we are. Mm-hmm. right down here. Okay. The peasants is right below that. Okay. Some of us are here. Okay. Debtors is down here. Clones, AI, is down here. All right. Even slaves, 9-to-5 slaves are here. Those in church, sheep are here. And the cattle, they're down here. Okay. You got the zombies, the breeders, the deep state, useless eaters. They're all down here. Worker ants, the matrix. They say, all right, they're down here. The world population control. As we climb the ladder of the pyramid, the corporations are here. And you think that the corporations run everything. But I'm sorry to tell you, the corporations don't run everything. They just run what's right below them. That's why it's a pyramid scheme. All right. As you go higher, you see central banks, tax revenue. All right. As we get higher, because here's the world financial control, we go higher, then we go into right here. This section here, the secret societies. They're the ones who have always ran things. You've got the Masonics in the middle, the Grandmasters and the cartels over here, the black market over here, international law is here, BlackRock, oh man, right here, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. That is the stock market, you all. That's important. Everything you got in your pocket. Okay? And then as we go up, everybody talking about the Illuminati. You don't even know who they are. Okay? And then you get up here. Now we're getting into biblical Bible prophecy because the Vatican, right there. The white Pope. The Jesuit order. Why do you think that Pope that we have right now is a Jesuit? For a reason. Spiritual law over here. The Mormon church over here. The Roman Empire is here. Okay. Look at this. Archduke, Prince, Marquis, Count, Earls, Barons, Chevaliers, Esquires, here. Y'all think that monarchy had died? Church of Scientology, here. As you keep going up, witches, keep going up, black magic, okay. They're at almost the top of the pyramid here. Emperors, kings, queens, and then eventually antichrists. You understand? This is the system that the Bible focuses on right here. This system. Not so much way down here, you all talking about, every time y'all do some type of end time thingy, when you all are talking, every time something happened in America, y'all go down here. No, the Bible focus is way up here. Way up here. And then the Bible focuses here. Princess. The principalities that Paul talks about, he says God has shown him a mystery that even these entities don't have privy of. Satan is in the helm. All right? Baal worship is still going on. El is a name that we typically give God, but they've taken it. El Elyon, El Shaddai. Well, no, that's given now to the evil. Then the mammon we see in Revelation. Okay. Common law. Karma. which people don't know what karma is. You think because something happens to that person, somebody did something, so karma is going to come back. No, karma is reincarnation. Karma is not what we say karma, and unfortunately we misinterpret what it means. And then the 144,000 is here. Okay, the Council of Elders, and then the angelic realm is always supreme. Seraphims, cherubims, thrones, dominions, virtues, powers, principalities, angels, and okay. Well, right here, God was speaking to him about principalities as angels, and that's include falling angels. All right, they still are up here at the top of the sphere here because they have the ability to mislead people. Now we see the I am that I am is up here. He'll always be up here. There's that I, that all-seeing eye right there. Okay, but the principalities is there because we see that they're falling angels. They left their original state and they got tossed down into hell and chained down there. And Jesus went down there and preached the gospel to them. Well, not the gospel, but he preached who he was, dominion. He preached to them, not the gospel. All right. In a sense, the gospel was there, but not the gospel of repentance. The gospel of damnation was there for them. All right. And on the side of that pyramid is many gods, eons, and wisdoms, and light, and illuminations, and revelations, and all kind of. That's why God says, "You shall not have any gods, before me." All right. There's Lucifer, Gabriel, Michael. They're all up here. Notice that these beings are not way down at the bottom. They're up here at the top because Lucifer, or Satan, is still the god of this world. He still is the prince of the powers of the air. You understand? And that's just the way it is until Jesus puts a stop to it. All right? So for those of you who are wondering about what's going on in American politics, listen, y'all are almost wasting your time, wasting days and wasting nights. Okay. As y'all often see me do, Ezekiel chapter 38 comes on the scene. It will be real soon, you all. Focus not so much on what's going on in American politics, which is over here. Yeah, that's fine. You can focus on that if you like. But somebody who said that I was a Zionist because I was focusing y'all back over here to the Middle East, y'all get upset when I talk about these things because it's important that you see that it's not about. I don't know what I'm doing here. My thing is acting a fool. My thing is acting a fool. I don't know what it's doing. Let me reinitiate this thing. Hold on. Here it is. So I'm showing y'all some of these lands here. The center attraction. When you read Ezekiel chapter 38, you can read chapter 39 as well. You'll see that Gog, Magog, Tubal, Rush, and all of these places in history will come come into fruition for those of you who just look at these as a beautiful map. All right. When you read it, you're going to see that he mentions Put, which is Libya. He's going to mention Cush as well. Cush. These your relatives is Ethiopia, okay, Cush, and you got over here, the Nubians is over here. All black folks want to be Nubians so bad, all right. But what's going to happen is God says He's going to take a hook and put it into the mouth or the nose of these nations, and He's going to cause these nations to wage war against one little piece of land. He mentioned Put or Libya. He mentioned Sudan. He mentions Turkey. He mentions Iran, all right, or Tehran, at the capital there, all right. And all of them are going against this little little bitty piece of land way down. You can't even read it. That little piece of land right there. And they are surrounding that little piece of land. Okay. All right. And he mentions, here is Moscow. Okay. And who would that be? Possibly Magog. Okay. He mentioned Gog and Magog. That is Russia, the USSR. Okay. And then those from the east, that China, all right, he's going to dry up the Euphrates River, and they will be marching over on dry land, all right, to attack. Mm-hmm. Are y'all learning this in Sunday school? Y'all Sunday school lesson? Are y'all learning this? All right, and then you'll see how Magog is going to pile up with these guys, okay? This is how it works, y'all. This is how they do it. And they've got a net of operation. Putin and China came together, all right? And then you've got Korea, North Korea, all right? Don't think that, I know y'all see that as our ally, and we're fighting over here, Taiwan right there. Y'all better be careful. Okay. And then there's India, who these folks over here in the United Kingdom came down over here and swooped down. Okay. Y'all learned this in grammar school, didn't you? You did, didn't you? All right. So this is Bible prophecy right here. Keep your eye on it. Keep your eye on it. And then the ships of Tarshish. Right here. Those ships in the west. We call this cross the pond. Okay. And over across the pond is the United States. All right. There will be a division here. There is a division here, but they will unify themselves with currency, but will be beat out based off of the new currency that we see over here in the European nations. Okay. I can do that at some other time on our website. We'll figure all that out later. But while we are focusing on the election here in America, your Sunday school teachers and your pastors ain't giving you the broad map that the Warnocks and the Sharptons and the Jacksons and all of these preachers and pastors are focusing on politics and keeping you dumb. The Democratic Party is keeping you dumb and poor, and the Republican Party is keeping you dumb and keeping you poor in spirit and keeping you in a state of bigotry as well. All these entities and political parties are keeping you down. Meanwhile, Christians today are so ignorant that they just don't know any of this stuff. They don't care because it wasn't taught them that. It wasn't taught them that, so they don't care. So what happens is a Hebrew Israelite will come in your circle. A Muslim will come into your jail. And other subgroups or other religions will come to your children. Snatch them. Why? Because they're making sense and they're giving answers because these young people got questions. And they're getting the answers, but we all are getting, I'm Mary L. McCracken. That's all we getting. And we're fighting over tithe and offerings, tongues and feet washing. And are there apostles and prophets today? While we're fighting, this world system that I just drew up for you is going on. They're feeding each other. They're getting stronger and stronger. Let me tell you, last night, all them thousands of women came together and raised all that money to push up this woman who was prophesied that there will eventually be a woman president of the United States. Well, you don't have to prophesy that. We see that over time this will happen. All right. And so if she becomes the president of the United States, well, good luck, everybody. good luck, everybody. Good luck. Meanwhile, if Donald Trump gets back in, this is the first time we'll see somebody of that caliber who's got all those lawsuits and he owes billions of dollars and all these things in court cases and what have you. This is the first time we're going to have somebody in office with all that baggage, and people who are believers want a man like that, and like there's no other man. I'm telling you, it's because once you choose a man over there, you have to worship him. You have to worship him. And what you worship him, no matter what he says or does, it doesn't matter. You will have an excuse for him. And this is what we do with our pastors. He can do anything because he has become the charismatic God in our hearts, no matter what he does. I forgive you, Pastor. You're a good man. No, we don't believe any of that stuff. This is what happens. So Ronald Reagan, who a man who I may have not have voted for, but I appreciated his knowledge. He said, trust, but verify. Thank you, God, for your presence and your blood and all the people who are here. I did what I did and did what I could to teach and instruct. Historically, they left. They didn't want to hear it. That's okay. The remnants are here. They took it in with the hopes that they would share it with their children. So God, help us here. We're here in this country. We call it a Christian nation, but oh boy, I don't know how Christian we are. Christian, God has become a political word like evangelical. It is a subgroup of people who are leaning more on the world system than we are on the gospel of Jesus Christ. So forgive us. We have misstepped. And so we're hoping on God that we would do our first works all over again, return to our first love, which is you, and get back on our knees. You can't stumble when you're on your knees. So help us, God. We're getting ready to go into uncharted territories in this election. I pray that we who are part of a world unseen, and we believers, would come together and pray and intercede and show people the love of Christ through it all. We love you. We give your name the praise in Jesus' name. Thank God, thank God, thank God. Amen. Go to patreon.com for more insights on Bible study and piano playing and movie nights and financial generational wealth and all that stuff. We don't fight over politics over there. Not over here, no. We do that on YouTube and Facebook. We don't do it over there. No. We're just happy-go-lucky folks who just enjoy ourselves. Last night was movie night. This morning we did the recap, Sunday school recap for 20 minutes over there, I think. I don't know how long it is over there. And tonight, let's see what we can find to put on Patreon as far as Bible study or something. We'll find something. All right? At least we'll try, because I already talked for over an hour, so. All right, what y'all got? I appreciate your teaching, because when I speak about the Middle East, no one understands. Patricia, that's why we call this the bunkers, because nobody want to hear us. So we built the bunkers for all of us to go and hide. I know you vote, but because the choices were, who do we vote for? You vote for your conscience, Carolyn Lee. Vote your conscience, but vote, because your forefathers died so that you might have the right to walk down there and pull the lever. So you vote, whether you got to write in somebody or whether you vote for somebody already established or you write your own name. You do whatever you need to do, but at least exercise it so that you will at least have a voice. All right? Don't let nobody fool you by saying, oh, well, a vote against this man is a vote for this guy. Just close your ears to that mess. They have an agenda. Just vote your conscience, period, and move on. Because this election is not conducive to our salvation. Voting is not something that you got to do just to stay saved. Voting is just something that you do in American democracy. But if you don't vote, you ain't going to hell. You do what you got to do. Derek C., blessed to you, man. Sorry I wasn't talking to you all day. I just wanted to get this lesson in and out of the way so that I can find something else to do with my life. All right. Cheryl, blessings to you. Thank y'all. Blessings to my best friend here. This was some great teaching. I learned so much greeting from my wife. Look, one of these days I'm gonna meet your wife. One of these days your wife gonna come on here one day and say, hey y'all, I am the best friend, his wife. And then she can go right back and doing whatever she might be sitting next to you, listening to me. And she's a quiet, silent partner. I like them quiet, silent ones, but them ones are wise beyond years. Them quiet wives, woo, man, they're the ones that be saving. They be saving us, brothers. They be keeping us out of stuff, danger and harm, seen and unseen. The quiet ones. Yeah, hold on to her, man. Hold on to her as long as you can. All right, y'all. See y'all. Breaking news, I'm sure it happened. I'll come back. Tomorrow, too, maybe I'll come back. Let's see what happens. Nicole said, I guess.
Fellas, does it seem like you can't get a good woman? Ladies, wonder why you can't keep a man? Then read The 4 Women That Men Desire, Volume 1, by Sirwalterj to figure out how to break the cycle. Go to Amazon.com to get your copy today.